Hello, boys! And a brofist to you all across the world. Absolutely love to see so many of you tuning in very, very early to come and see us. Welcome, welcome, welcome to today's Daily Preach. It's Wednesday. It's reset day. It's awesome sauce day. Everybody's trying everything out. I did something unusual today. Very unusual. Yes, I am shirted and so on and so forth. Can I show you like the sexiest thing? If you guys are trying to pull ladies who are a little bit nerdy, best thing is a small hint. Just that tiny little hint of your nerddom really pulls everything out. Check mine out. Ghost recommended this to me. Check the belt buckle. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's the old school Nezpad belt buckle, baby. I had to go to a meeting today, and out the corner of my eye I could see fellows and gents who went, and ladies alike who went, that guy's got a little bit of nerd in him. That's right. Just the small hints. The small hints of your prowess with a pad. Drax brings all the ladies to the yard, you know. My belt buckle brings all the ladies to the yard. And in good news, I just finished Jersey Shore Season 5. Anybody want to send me an email about the results of that? Can do. All good. Today I did something unusual. Yes, I had a meeting today concerning the channel and growing things and bringing more stuff to you guys. I love having meetings about my channel. It's like, yeah, that's what I'm doing today. I'm talking about YouTube stuff and WoW stuff and gaming stuff in general. It's fucking awesome stuff. Really enjoy it. That's why I got away with wearing a Nez belt buckle because I was talking about gaming stuff, so that was all good. But then I came home and I'm editing quite a large serious video. About tanking, because we're having a bit of a tanking themed week, and that was cool. I did that for a couple of hours, and then I was like creatively sort of stuck on some bits I wanted to do, so then I took a break and decided to play some WoW, like I do, with my friend Genji. Genji was online. He's been sleeping and been ill for a few days, but he was online, so I was like, dude, let's go and do some heroics and try out some new stuff. I, of course, went with the Fire Mage. Why the hell not? I loved the Fire Mage of Mr. Pandaria Beta. So I thought, what character shall I go in? The great thing about having all the classes and all the specs and generally being able to do something with them, I was just like, what shall I play today? And I thought, Fire Mage. I've got to make sure that the Fire Mage is still as glorious as it was. And oh, it was. We had great fun. Genji, of course, had the item level only to enter the basic heroics, so he did some Throne of Tides, that kind of thing. I just had a generally great time. That low cooldown combustion in 5-mans is just heaven. I don't even have to worry about it being up for the boss. I can just use it all the fucking time. And I was just doing 40k DPS, 45k DPS in my lowly geared mage, just tearing things apart. So fun. But then I thought, I want to try Frost out. I read the patch notes that Frost got a significant buff to damage. They didn't want it to be a PvP tree. They want all 3 specs to be in some way viable. So I thought, what the hell? What the hell? I'm just going to roll out. I'm going to try some Frost out. So Genji thought the same thing. He says, I'm going to try Arcane. I, being a sir, went over to the Justice Quartermaster and bought Genji some braces with my hard-earned Justice points. I was like, you know what, bro? There you go. And brought him up to the item level in order to get into the Hour of Twilight heroics. Now, of course, Genji had scraped in with the bottom of his teeth to get into that dungeon. And certainly in no way was geared for Arcane or reforged or gemmed in such a manner. So off we went into there, and I was Frost. And of course, when you're playing these newbie classes, and you're just a generally big noob because everything's been changed. It's been ages since I played Frost on the beta. Genji has never seen Arcane since any of the changes at all. DPS wasn't as good as it should be. I would think we were both in about the mid 20 to 30Ks, which isn't bad by any means. But oh, Preacher ran into a couple of elitist assholes. After the other day, we spoke about me running into some elitist assholes that day and some just general trolls of the world. No more! In salute to the ballers out there, I decided to break with regime and I unloaded. I unloaded in a righteous fashion upon the trolls. Yes, I did. To the point where Genji was laughing hysterically over Skype. I just decided, you know what? Fuck this. I have had enough. You two are getting it. You are going to get it large and you're going to get it preach style. The end result, of course, is they both left the group. Victory. Now this, yeah, I was a little bit angry. Because we were laughing and stuff. We were having a great time. Our DPS wasn't terrible at all. As you can imagine, I don't do terrible DPS. That's just not how I roll. But it was things like we forgot Frost Armor and stuff. So, Frost Armor's a cast now. I changed specs, you know, that kind of stuff. And we were laughing and joking over Skype while we were doing some stuff. And then it was the tank. The Feral Druid tank, who was wearing pure DPS gear of around a heroic Dragon Soul level, started raging about shit DPS. The first time it caught my attention was at the most retarded point in the dungeon. It is that dungeon, the Hour of Twilight dungeon, it might even be called Hour of Twilight, where the mobs are in shadow and you can't do any damage to them. They take like 99% reduced. Can you guys hear Ben? Can you hear that? No? Just me. Yeah, you can hear him. What? Every time, 5 o'clock, he decides to start barking. So the Feral Druid says, "Oh my god, mages, noob fucking DPS, lol." Oh, I was Look at the light as well. Okay, we're taking a 1-minute break. The light is driving me mad. There we go. Someone remind me every time I do the show to simply turn off the natural light in this room. That's better. Am I right, players? Am I right? We like to hear Ben's voice. You like to hear a dog barking while I'm trying to talk to you. That's cool. He's obviously more interesting. So the Feral Druid said, "Lol, mages noob DPS." Before the first Moonlight had even spawned on them. So we weren't DPSing them. We were just talking. It was like waiting for the tank to move them in. Why not? The tank has very little threat. He can't do any damage to them and so on and so forth. So he instantly said that. That got my back up straight away. What a stupid time to call out DPS. And then we moved through, and I was topping the DPS by a long way. The other guy in the party is a Fury Warrior. Fury Warrior is way below me and Genji. I was top, Druid was second, Genji, then the Warrior. Warrior starts joining in with the Druid, mocking me and Genji. And I just felt myself going, this is really going to annoy me. I've had a great day. I've had a good meeting. I'm home. I've got a good video coming out, which I think will be really helpful to a lot of people. You know, I was just in a really good place, and then these guys started just being assholes. And all we were doing was trying out different mage stuff. So I start, and I'm like, no, it's alright. They're just assholes. Don't worry about it. We did the first boss, and what happened is ultimately the Warrior and the Druid were above me and Genji. But they were all the same. We all did, I think, 25. You'll see in a minute anyway. We all did about the same DPS. But the Druid had the wrong damage meter open. He had overall and saw himself above us. So ultimately, some comments were made. I lost my shit. I really did. I lost it completely. I'm going to briefly show you this. I will upload it to Facebook. It is offensive. It is offensive. That is what I did to those people. Every time you can see blue writing, that is me saying something to them. You probably can't see that. I'm going to leave it up for a second while I stop Ben barking. Wow. Okay. I will upload that screenshot to you. No problem at all. So you can read it. But ultimately, they both left. Oh, the tears. And then the healer was like, gave us a slash clap and applauded me. Basically, I just started typing furiously. I didn't even read the replies. I was just like, oh my god, noob, lol, can't use damage meter. Sec, need help. Can I have instructions? Help, help, help. It just went on and on and on, and it just never stopped. So you saw I got 3 pages. Yeah, there was a lot of spam about just help me, you're so pro. Help me, please, you must be the best players in the universe. Please help me. How did you use your damage meter? Oh, please, please, God, help, help. I didn't stop. I didn't stop until I saw one of them left the group, then the other one left the group, and then the healer was like, That was really cool. He's like, well done. I was like, hey, no problem, man. And then 2 other guys joined the group, smashed the instance to pieces. Happy, happy days. I was just so angry at these guys. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Coming in full on gear, being all like, hey, I'm raping the DPS on my druid. No way. And the Fury Warrior was also crap DPS. It's just like, oh, come on, man. Give it a break. Give me a break. You know, I'm just not interested. So I thought, I can destroy these people. I've got faster fingers. I know I have faster fingers. So and that was the result. It was fucking awesome. I don't care the door's not closed. I don't care. I don't care. It's been a messy daily already thanks to these interruptions. Emma, the lie. Emma's actually sat outside in her car, which is why Ben is going furiously mad because he can see her outside while she's looking back at him, doing stuff in the car, which is fabulous for me. So that's what I did today. I was a complete tool, but they deserved it. I was like Robin Hood. I felt like Robin Hood afterwards. And it really was like, yes, when they left. Because such idiot comments like, how fucking bad are these mages? And we were just, and then the warrior joined again. We were destroying the warrior. I was miles ahead of the druid. Ugh. So frustrating. So frustrating. Let's do some gaming news. Ubisoft. Who likes Ubisoft? No one. Who likes EA? No one. They're assholes, right? They're elitist pricks, generally. And we said the ridiculous notion that Ubisoft came out with last month is that 95% of our games are pirated. 95%. They then announced this week that we're going to turn off our DRM. If you don't know what DRM is, it means you have to be online and checked into Ubisoft servers while you play their game. Huh? What? 95% of our games are pirated. We're turning off our DRM so everybody can play it. And and they've openly said, as long as it's registered when you buy the game, we don't mind if you don't register it again. You can play on as many machines as you want. Well, that's weird. That's backwards as hell. What? You're saying all your games are pirated, so why are you turning off your only method of control about piracy? Surely then the next 5% will take their jollies and go and buy all the games. There was an interview that was done with them, and the article is on Rock Paper Shotgun. You can go check that out, rockpapershotgun.com, where they interviewed somebody from Ubisoft about this. And the first question is, are you regretting making those ridiculous claims about how many people pirate your games? Where did you get that number from? Where's this data from? And like a true politician, they came back and said, it comes from various internal and external sources, and we just kind of merged the numbers together to get our final answer. So you just pick numbers out of your ass. Is that what I'm saying? Because any research in the whole world, can be easily manipulated. You ask the right questions, you'll get the right answer. Right? Do you think pedophiles should be hung? Well, most people don't want people to be killed despite how despicable their crime is. A lot of people don't agree with that, especially when there's a chance that they didn't do it and they're innocent. This happens. People accuse people of all sorts of shit. So a lot of people might answer that question saying, no, you would definitely get a split. Do you think pedophiles should be charged? Well, everybody's going to say yes. All the time, the question very much relates to what kind of answers you're going to get. And depending on what questions researchers ask, depends on the answer. You can essentially get any answer you want if you ask the right question. It's very important to realise that when you fill in surveys and stuff, most of us try and ignore surveys, but when you do, take note of what the question's actually asking you, and if it was worded slightly different, you might answer a different question. But they can come back and say, oh, the whole world wants paedophiles to be sent to jail, and our jails in this country could lead to execution. Therefore, most people want paedophiles to be executed. They can do that. They can easily take those steps because you answered, yes, they should be prosecuted in some fashion. Oh, well, you know, in the state of whatever, they can then be led to execution. So people agree that we should execute paedophiles. That's one of the things you've got to be very careful of in the RL world, is what questions are you actually being asked and how can your answer be portrayed? Always interesting to figure that out. The question I really want to talk to today, subject-wise, was prompted by a question sent into our Gmail. I don't want a big discussion about paedophiles. Just want to put that in there. This is not a paedophile subject, okay? There's a lot of people now giving their opinion. Don't do that because it's bound to lead to a huge argument between somebody and somebody else. It's really not worth it at all. Nobody will win. That's what I want you to say, is nobody will win that question. Nobody's ever going to win. Everybody's like, well, my opinion on the matter is, yeah, don't do that. You will never, ever win. It's really not worth it. I'm not reading any of the stuff you guys are posting right now. I got a question. It's just loading up now. For some reason, I closed the window. Because I'm an idiot. It's a question about raiding. It's idyllic situations. We all look... Oh, before I get into this, I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who replied to yesterday's daily regarding why they follow and what things they do with the channel. It was really, really useful to me and to going forward. One of the big things we noticed is everybody wants different things. That's cool, that's normal. We do have plenty of variety in what we put out there. A game show is nothing like a WoW guide. Orcs Must Die is nothing like anything else. Our Let's Plays and multiplayers and all that. So it's very interesting that some people are like, we want a lot of web shows. I want you to do a lot of live streaming of just you playing. I just want to see you play. That was one of the big ones, is we just want to see you play. We just want to see you play games. That's it. That's cool. And then people who are like... And the main one, obviously, is I follow you for my specific class and spec. So the rest of your content is irrelevant to me. So if you're playing an Assassination Rogue all the time, if I upload a tank video, Feral Druid, a Demonology Warlock video, it's no interest to you unless you level that alt. It was good to see, though, so many people are multi-classing a lot more thanks to my videos, which is cool to see. Trying out different things. I always recommend you try out the different roles. It was good response, so big thank you to that. Okay, this was the question that came in from Bean, Mr. Bean. I'm a 15-year-old German player. I don't know why German's relevant. So there you go. And I enjoy raiding quite a lot. My main game is StarCraft 2. I play in the high Masters and low Grandmasters. Good player. Good control. I would like to try raiding a little by the side, having fun, but even though I'm a player who enjoys helping worse players improve, I don't like raiding with very bad players. It's very frustrating when people aren't to move their lazy ass and so on and so forth. Yes, it is. One of the most frustrating things in World of Warcraft is, of course, bad players. It is. It's terrible. I'm not talking about people who need to learn, people who refuse to learn. That's worse. But I also don't want to spend all my time in WoW and keep up with my StarCraft 2 training. He wants to go pro. Do you think there is a way for me to raid with relatively good players, not progress raiding, mind, but people who know what to do, and not to have spent all my time in WoW? Do you think that a relatively good guild will require me to spend a lot of time in WoW? Well, the simple answer to that before we move to the main subject this prompted me to think about is no. A good guild does not require you to be online a lot. In fact, the very, very, very good guilds only want you online for raids. That's it. They don't want you online any other time. They don't care if you're online any other time. They're not interested. They don't give a fuck. As long as you turn up for raids and you're appropriately geared as you should be, and you've got your consumables, they don't care if you instantly log off after the raid and don't log on again until next week. So no, there's a huge problem amongst the... I'm going to use this term, but I don't agree with it. The casual player base, that time equals results in World of Warcraft. That is absolutely not the case. Absolutely not. World of Warcraft requires you to play well, but it also requires you to play well with others playing well. Thereby, you kill the boss faster, you need to log in less. A lot of guilds in the sort of medium tier have this huge problem of repeat kills. They don't push hard enough. One thing I did with Dark Light, and I've done with other guilds in the past, is when we kill a boss, we do not stop progress on that boss. Now, by progress, that is a big general term. Progress to some people means working towards killing the boss and ultimately defeating it. Progress on that boss is complete. We now look to the next boss. That is not true. Absolutely not. And any guild GMs out there, or even just members of the guild, should be promoting what I'm going to tell you next. When you kill a boss, you still have a lot of progress on that boss, because things ultimately keep changing. Every week, your DPS raid-wide should improve. People like to live in their own personal box. Well, I didn't get much gear last week, so my DPS hasn't improved much. Little do they think that they may have got 18 or 20 new items across the raid the previous week. Raid DPS increases significantly every single raid. What you should be look to be doing, there's a correct grammar there, is finding new ways of killing the boss. New, interesting, and fun ways to kill the boss. Because farm raids fucking suck. Especially if you're in a guild who is not trying to improve themselves on farm content. Farm content should be something you work at and destroy. I mean, destroy. A couple of guilds run into different ways of dealing with this. Darkstorm, the guild I raided with previously, had a tendency of when they kill the boss and were on farm, is that they would open up vent more and allow people to chit-chat, have jokes while they were doing the boss. That's all very well and good to an extent, but some of the raiders will very much disagree with that and will ultimately turn off their Ventrilo and just listen to music because they can't stand the constant chatter while they're raiding. Especially very focused, very dedicated raiders who are looking for things like world firsts don't want to listen to your idle chit-chat. They want to focus up and get it killed. What tends to happen in that situation is at some point you will wipe on a boss, and then always there is that guy who goes, why did we wipe? And the obvious answer is because you weren't concentrating on the boss. You weren't concentrating at all. You were just talking. We farmed this boss, so it should die. Doesn't work that way. Just because you killed a boss previously, maybe even 4 or 5 times, that boss is still generally difficult, especially on heroic content. It still requires coordination, it still requires the team to play together, and it still requires you to have good attention on what the hell is happening. Therefore, I had a rule in Dark Light, which I was a bit of an asshole in Dark Light with the way I ran the guild. Some people, I think the members would disagree with that. Which is an odd thing to say. It's kind of hypocritical. I believe I was a bit of an asshole with how I ran my own guild after I'd learned a lot through the years, but I don't think the members saw it that way. I made them essentially sign a contract before they were allowed to join the guild. It would be like, your application is good, now read this, and I need you to say you agree with everything in that document, essentially, which was all a big long thing that I wrote. And that document entailed things like, you are free to speak about whatever the hell you want on trash. On trash, you could talk about whatever the hell you want. And the good reason for that is I was tanking, therefore I know the tank is going to be done, tanking of the trash is going to be done very quickly. One of the great things about finding a fantastic tank is they are incredibly impatient, especially in raids. Same as the 5-men. I want trash to be done super fast. When it comes to a boss, there will be no chat whatsoever unless it pertains to this boss fight. And I got people into the habit as soon as that countdown starts, 5, 4, vent went dead. And generally you'd have the officer speaking, like Blubzor was my healing officer, and he was fantastic because he did a lot of the announcements. He was very cool about it. He was always very clear and concise, even though he's Dutch, which is rare. Just joking, Dutchies. And he would announce everything that was going on in the fight that was relevant. And if some people were causing him to heal them more than necessary, remember we were playing with very good players. We got a World 13th in that guild. He would be like, don't do that. Don't do this. You'll need to move, so on and so forth. And then as soon as the boss died, Vent would spark up again into life and general chit-chat would ensue. What resulted was generally extremely quick clears of instances. When you've got a bunch of people who don't like farm raids, clearing it as fast as possible is the way of doing it. The other rule I put in place is after the maximum that we should take before a boss dies on farm until the next trash is pulled is 12 seconds. That is the maximum amount of time that we should take, and it should be less than that. Loot can be picked up and carried by one person. There's no need for roles in a guild. There's no need for discussion. In general, if you're a 10-man guild especially, I had the guys work out what items they needed from the bosses before they dropped and discuss between themselves who was getting it before we started the raid. So I had a Rep Paladin and a DK, 2 extremely good players. And let's say a 2-handed weapon was dropping, which would go to them. They knew beforehand who was getting it. They didn't need any discussion in the raid. So it dropped, one of them needs, one of them passes, we're off. And we're pulling the next trash. Straight away, we're off. Brilliant little rules like that. That is an idyllic situation that ultimately would have worked long term if 10-man content at the beginning of Cataclysm wasn't horrendously, stupidly difficult and unnecessarily so. I thought I had the best bunch of lads I could have gathered together. But getting back to the progress stuff, is you should be the guy. If you're a baller, you should be the guy after you kill a boss that says, what could we have done differently? What else can we do? How can we speed this up? Our DPS has got much higher. Our healing has got much higher. Our tanks can take much more damage. How can we use that to our advantage in order to kill the boss quicker next time and find different ways of killing it? A great example was Lord Rylith, okay? Lord Rylith, if you ever did Firelands, healed, essentially. He regenerated his armor when the liquid obsidians reached his feet. A simple fix was to have the Moonkins and the Shadow Priests multi-dot all the liquid obsidians, because they wanted to do that anyway. They got ridiculous AoE damage out of it. So they just dot all the liquid obsidians. Rylith would never get anywhere near as much armor. Therefore, we killed the boss incredibly quickly. Ridiculously quickly. We needed to do much less kiting. We needed to deal with much less stomps. The healers had more mana. Ultimately, you can start dropping healers, which is what you want to do. Your healers, if you're a dedicated healer, you should be ready to do some DPS. You'll have a couple of guys who never want to do anything other than heal. That's fine. They should be your staple healers. But the other healers should be ready to do DPS. Therefore, we're now bringing more DPSs to the fight, less healers. What else can we do? Well, let's put a couple of guys permanently on the legs who never need to switch. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? It's an ever-evolving situation. Bad guilds that tend to spend too much time in WoW don't do that. They stick with the method that got them killed at the beginning of the fight, that got the boss killed. That's what we did. That's what works. We'll stay with it. Then they watch a video of a top guild crushing that boss and doing something they never thought of. Shanox. One guy, I think one of the videos, they don't even plant, they don't use the traps. The tank just tanks it. And they kill the boss in seconds. They just wipe him out. Blood Legion are notorious for this. Blood Legion, one of the top US guilds, are notorious for trying to do speed kills. And ultimately, I think they did Shadowx with 2 healers. Brought the rest DPS and just burned that mofo to the ground. It's really, really important that you get into this habit. I want to see your thoughts on this in the YouTube video, because if your guild is one of those that just kills a boss and is happy that they did it, and therefore we will repeat it the next week in the same manner, you're doing it very wrong. And now you're making farm raiding more of a chore than it needs to be. Look at Method, who farm Dragon Soul Heroic in 1 hour. Then look at a guild that is still 8 out of 8 Heroic, who does it in 2 hours. The gear is not that different. It doesn't take long to get best in slot in the Dragon Soul. It really doesn't. When you're farming all 8 instances, the bosses drop a ton of loot. You're bound to have the 1 or 2 items that never drop, but every guild has that. It's not like the top guilds in the world don't have that issue. They may have had 1 or 2 more chances at it dropping than you, but they still have the same thing. Some items that just don't drop. I believe in Method it was the Agi Trinket. The random Agi Trinket. I forget its name. Never dropped. The Hunters never had it. The Rogues didn't have it. It never ever dropped. Some of the guilds get them all the time. Look at the guild that got 3 sets of Warglaives in 6 weeks. 3 full sets of Warglaives in 6 weeks. Crazy stuff like that happens. It happens to every guild. There are no exceptions. Random loot is always random. Focus. And think about the bosses you're killing now. Are you still raiding Dragon Soul? How can it be improved? Simple things like not kiting the ads on Spine Heroic are a step. But think about different things and ways of doing things. Can we keep a DPS over here? One of the techniques in Method that started to be used was killing the tentacle and dealing with the blistering tentacles at the same time as the other tentacle was up. So by the time that we'd finished the mutated tentacle, the fucking boss was nearly dead. It was nearly done and we moved on. Simple things like that. Crazy things. Little stupid things. Very important. Yeah, they got 3 sets of glaives in 6 runs. Let's have some questions for you, ballers. I've been talking for 28 minutes straight. My throat is killing me. Vial of Shadows. Vial of Shadows was a trinket. I have an alt and a horde guild, and regardless of content, even ICC, they follow the original tactics. For me, who is used to trying to zerg stuff, it's very annoying. It is. It's frustrating, and it's frustrating for me as well. 2 things really frustrate me in raiding. Idle chit-chat during bosses, I completely disagree with. I really do disagree with that, and it took me a hell of a long time to get used to that in Darkstorm. I did say that to Blubzor before he joined. Blubzor is raiding Darkstorm and says, just be aware, they like to chit-chat on vent during bosses. And he was like, really? I'm like, yeah. And we had such a stringent rule against that. No chit-chat during bosses. And let me tell you, we one-shot near enough every single farm boss unless something horrific happened. Because the guys would just be chatting, be like, hey, you know, yeah, I was out last night. And then it's like, right, countdown, and they just go, kill the boss. Yeah, so as I was saying, I was out last night, and that's how it would be. Onto the trash. You've got impatient tanks like myself. You've got impatient healers like Blubzor. As soon as the boss died, Blubzor's in dash mode. He's dashing through the dungeon. I'm intervening him. I'm heroic leaping. I'm pulling the next trash, usually in about 5 or 6 seconds. We cleared so much content so fast. And only when Blubzor, as a healing officer, which is his job, would say, healers need mana, would I stop. That's it. That was his job. You tell me when the healers need mana, I will stop pulling. If I don't hear that the healers need mana, I'm going to keep pulling. And so is my off-tank. They're going to keep pulling regardless. Great rules, stringent. How can you find a serious raid guild that doesn't play more than 2 to 3 nights a week? That's such a difficult question, man. Serious guilds want to raid seriously. This is how it works, okay? The better the guild, the harder they will go at it when new content is released. There is a huge risk that that content might be bugged, be really immense in length, and therefore raiding is going to take a long ass time. And that's difficult. Tier 11 at Cataclysm was a great example of that. If the bosses were all working as they should be, we might have seen that tier of raid tier end probably a month, maybe a month and a half after Cataclysm launched. I'm talking a month and a half of every single night of the week, maybe taking a Tuesday off, something along those lines. I'm talking Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, raiding consistently till late in the night. But guess what? A month and a half later, you raid once a week probably, because those guys like to get everything on farm as soon as possible. The top players in the world play a lot less, but are you prepared to dedicate that kind of time? Probably not. You're probably looking for a lower down guild. Some guilds who are in the more middle region of progression, they tend to raid on average 4 to 5 times a week. That's pretty average, and they take a lot longer to clear the content, and they probably spend 2 nights farming, something like that. Once they've actually got it on farm, 2 nights, probably some silly wipes on some bosses thrown in, which is always frustrating. Finding a good guild is the idyllic situation. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the real world. It doesn't exist in WoW. People want to always send me messages, something like, I want a guild of great players, which is never easy to achieve, who will be completely focused all the time. That's an impossibility. Will behave well in guild and not cause any drama. An impossibility. Drama happens because you're dealing with people. People cause drama. And they want all these things. They have a checklist of things that are impossible to achieve. You need to accept that is not really possible. You might find a decent guild that you say, hey, I can only raid 2 or 3 times a week, but I'm a really good player. Is that okay with you? Most will say no. Unfortunately, that is just the nature of the beast. They will say no. But some will say yes. In order to, you have to accept of what you're prepared to offer. If you're prepared to only offer 2 to 3 times a week, you have to accept that you're probably going to have to pick a lower down guild. You can't have it both ways, unfortunately. That's having the cake and eating it, is what it's called. What you tend to find is some players do that, but they've been in the guild for so long and did their dedicated raiding maybe 2 years ago or a year ago, all the way up to a certain point, and then they said, you know what, I can't play much anymore, but you've built an established position in the guild and they're willing to let you do 2 or 3 times a week. A new player, you're going to have to accept that a top guild or even a really serious progression guild wants you to raid as much as possible. Of course they do. So move on. Okay. Last question. Well, there's a guy there. My guild is serious. We raid a max 2 times per week. Give them a check out. Talk to them. Maybe they're okay with you. Maybe they're okay with you. Good guilds clear the content faster. Do they though? In terms of calendar days, yes. In terms of time invested, sometimes yes, sometimes no. On average, yes. Obviously, you've got a collection of better players. Some guilds will beat you purely because their players have more time to be around. Therefore, they raid longer. They have more attempts, more pulls, and then ultimately they get the victory before you do. There is a definite balancing act going on there. There are some famous guilds I won't mention who are high-end guilds who are just the absolute mock of other high-end guilds because all their players seemingly had no jobs. And when it came to a month-long tier of raiding, they were still raiding constantly 13, 14, 15 hours a day. Some high-end guilds will keep that up for as long as possible. Usually a week, 2 weeks, you can book off work to do it, and this is their hobby. Why not book it off work? I see plenty of people book time off work to play golf, go to football, whatever it might be. It's the same thing. And then that 2 week ends and people have to go back to work. That's just the nature of the beast. And then they will try and raid as much as possible from the evening till the middle of the night, maybe 7 or 8 hours, and then they will have to sleep, go back to work, and then raid again. And that is the life of a lot of top-end raiders when content lasts too long. asking how you are. That is just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. That is just how it rolls. But some guilds will win purely out of... Alright, you can go. Go see Mummy. Goodbye. But no, not all the time. Not all the time is it about good guilds clear contents faster. It's definitely easy to say somebody is a good guild because they cleared the content earlier than you did. It might not be the case. Look, everyone cheering for Ben. On that note, on that great note of seeing Ben, who's really excited to come and see us, I'm going to say good day to you. I'll see you tomorrow on Thursday. Thanks again for everybody who helped us out and supported us yesterday with that information. It was really, really helpful. If you have something to add to that, feel free to post it on the YouTube comments. I will be reading them most of tomorrow. All right, ballers, you have a fantastic evening. I will upload this screenshot to Facebook after this, so you can read it. I warn you, it is offensive. So if you don't like seeing me be offensive, which I can be, don't check it out. Later, ballers. Oh, wrong one.